Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Brought to you by Junk Be Gone and the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. I appreciate you joining us today. This is our 900th show. Thank you for that. It's our final show of our year here at the Sports Source. We always consider the first show of the year the first game that we do as a post-game show. So next week will be the first show of season 19. Again, thank you. We have VFLs here today. We have media members today. We have a special guest today. We're doing predictions for Bowling Green. We got a lot of stuff, but I do want to warn you, there's a Category 4 on the verge of Category 5 hurricane that could be slamming into Louisiana at any minute. That means that ABC News could be cutting into us at any minute. If that happens, we continue on here like nothing is happening. Our show, this show, can be seen at YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and at sportsource.tv by about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So if we cut out, and you're like, oh, I wanted to hear the end of that sentence, you'll see it later because we'll put it online. Hopefully we won't be cut into. I'm knocking on wood on that. So let's get right into it while we're here. First segment of this program brought to you by the Garza Law Firm. If you've ever seen an ad for an attorney on TV and you've never heard of that attorney, that firm, it's probably because that firm is based in Memphis or Atlanta or Birmingham. Folks, local problems call for local attorneys. So you should call the local attorneys, the Garza Law Firm. If you don't, you need somebody that knows the local system, knows the local judges, knows the other local attorneys. If you don't do that, you're kind of going into this thing with one arm behind your back. Garza Law Firm, Marcos Garza, a longtime member of this community. Give them a shout. No one wants to need an attorney, but if you do, call the Garza Law Firm. Check them out online to learn more. Okay, let's welcome in the panel for today, the first wave of panelists. We have longtime sports writers bookending the set, Bob Hodge and Chuck Cavaleris, who've been with us this is the end of our 18th year. Guys, thank you. And then in the middle, from GoVols247.com, we have Ryan Callahan, who was probably 8 years old when we first launched the show. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And thanks to Chuck and Bob for joining us. Josh Heupel, let's start with just some Tennessee news this week. Josh Heupel, or Tennessee non-news. Josh Heupel has not announced a starting quarterback. Joe Milton is getting the lion's share of first-team reps behind the scenes. Everyone knows this. But we're going forward with the charade that no decision has been made. I would assume that you'll see more than one quarterback against Bowling Green, especially if things go to plan. But at the same time, this seems like Joe Milton's job. Everyone over there will tell you it's Joe Milton's job. My question is, anybody surprised that Josh Heupel is playing this game and not just announcing? I mean, his own offensive coordinator said at the start of camp, we want to have this nailed down quickly. Okay, so why not just announce it? Is anybody surprised that they're playing the little game with Bowling Green and not letting them know?
Yes, I am surprised. And I just wonder if there could be a little strategy within that surprise. The gap between these guys isn't massive. It's
talent-wise, it may be, but
talent-wise, but as far as performance, it's not Peyton Manning versus whoever. So maybe by not naming a guy, if things don't go well for the guy, then you bring somebody else in and you come back and say, hey, that's the reason we didn't name a starter. All through camp, it's been pretty tight. So maybe they're just playing it that way in case Milton turns out not to be the guy.
Very good.
I think that's a good thought. And on top of that, I'll say that there's maybe a chance here that it's just transfer maintenance, essentially is what I would call it, where you're trying to keep Harrison Bailey and Hendon Hooker engaged and in the discussion and prevent those guys from thinking of bailing early. And if that's the case, that's wise these days too. It's unfortunate that it sometimes has to be played that way, but I think that's a possible thought. Also, it's not surprising to me though, because we've seen Josh Heupel. We talked earlier this month about just how the access had been good, everything had been kind of open. Last week we didn't see a minute of practice. As things have gotten closer to the season, things have been tightened up. So this is very much in fitting with the way Josh Heupel's handled everything else. He's not tipping his hand. He's not saying anything really exciting or interesting. He's just doing what they have to do to prepare for Bowling Green. And in this case, that obviously means not naming a starting quarterback yet.
Chuck, did you think did you think everyone would know who the starting quarterback is officially? I think everyone knows unofficially. But did you think we'd have an official statement at some point by now?
I thought it was reasonable to expect by this weekend, but I think you can fully expect it by noon tomorrow. Isn't that Coach Heupel's press conference, the weekly press conference? He also
We
has
just heard that the last couple of weeks. Oh well, it'll come Monday.
Yeah, but I mean,
has.
that's what I would expect. And from what I was told over there, the thing that's kind of been holding them back is the grasp of the offense in terms of terminology with Joe Milton. Yeah. That in terms of that, he has not shown that he's the number one guy. And I think you do keep one eye on the transfer portal. And I think you can expect all three to play.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and the thing is, I think they're wise. If it's when you're down to 3 quarterbacks, you don't need one to leave.
Well, and here's the thing: if you name number 1, does that mean you name number 2 and 3, and does that immediately make number 3 go?
Well, no, I think it'll be 2A and 2B.
Well, it depends on how you also have to wonder, is 2A getting all of the number 2 reps?
Right.
Is 2A always getting the 2A snap, in other words, and 2B is always like, I realize I'm 2B, but really I'm 3 every time.
Yeah.
Why is that? Here since we launched back in 2003,
wow,
we have covered the season openers for Lane Kiffin, Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, Jeremy Pruitt, now Josh Heupel.
Wow.
My question to you guys, double wows.
Double wow.
That's why you're bookends. You're the W's and he's the O. My question to you guys is, are you excited? I mean, there was a time when it was Lane Kiffin, it's like, oh, this is new, this is different. And then with Derek Dooley, it's like, okay, well, we'll see. We're 47 coaches into this now. And I wonder, I don't think that the fan base is as fired up as usual. My question is, are you guys as excited as maybe you once were for these new coaching changes, or are you to the point where, I've been through this before?
I think it's what you just said.
Really?
And I think it's kind of wait and see. I mean, there's a little bit of excitement because you felt like they're going to be much more exciting offensively, and you knew a change needed to be made. But overall, even in light of the opponent, Bowling Green is part of it. But no, it's more like, let's just wait and see.
I am, but I'm looking at it from the perspective of a media member, so maybe different for me. But for me, it's looking at it. This is something different. We're going to see a different offense, a different system, some new players we haven't seen before. There's a lot of fun storylines to this team. Not exciting from a standpoint of if you're hoping 10-2 somehow happens,
Right.
but it's exciting from the standpoint of seeing something new.
Yeah, okay. And that's what I'm getting. It's so Mr. Excitement here. We do have one guy who finds things out. Bob, do you
I go
split the
back
difference?
to when they hired Derek Dooley, and you said, is he a bridge or a destination? And I went, destination. Ever since then, I have kind of scaled back a little bit.
They've become more bridgy.
Every time, every one of them looks more bridgy. That said, I'm much more excited about Josh Heupel than I was about Jeremy Pruitt.
Right.
Because Jeremy Pruitt came out of that just horrible mess that you had of a coaching search. And, this one wasn't a mess. You didn't get the guys that you really wanted, but he does bring something new to the table. So I'm not as excited here. I'm more excited than there. My level of excitement is somewhere in between.
Okay, I will hold off mine because my answer also applies to a question that's going to come up later. So I'm going to hold off my answer. Ryan, very quickly, Walter Nolan, everybody's keeping an eye on. Kid transferred from Cordova to Powell. He's played 2 games with the Panthers now. Depending on the service, he's either the number 1 player in the country or the number 2 player in the country. He hinted this week that an announcement could be coming soon. He has Tennessee in his top 3. Who's in there with them? Who's in there with Tennessee? And what does this mean? How much are you sitting there going, oh, he says something's coming soon. I'm going to start biting my nails. What's the deal?
Yeah, so if you missed it and don't follow everything on social media like we have to, you're okay. You didn't miss much. But he did make a sort of a statement on Twitter saying that if his Instagram follower count hit 11,000, he was going to commit. That happened within about 2 hours of him tweeting that. So that was the day after he named the top 3 of Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas A&M. So those are the main contenders right now. He's kind of hinted since then something might be coming soon. If it does, I think Tennessee's got as good of a chance as anybody. At the same time, Texas A&M feels good. Georgia is the newcomer in the top 3. So all bets are off with Walter Nolan, and that's the consensus with everyone. Even if he does announce something soon, this one won't be over till signing day. But there's a chance he at least considers announcing something here pretty soon.
Thoughts he will be in attendance for Tennessee's opener on Thursday?
He has declined to commit to that, but I think he probably will be there.
Well, if he announces somewhere else, is he going to transfer again?
All right. Very good. Hey, don't make any jokes. He's in town. He can watch this.
Sorry.
I already got one of those emails from somebody saying, "You watch what you say." All right. When we come back, lots of folks in the media have been laughing at the idea of UD losing to Bowling Green. Is it really that riotous an idea? We'll discuss next. Go back on the Sports Source.